and that we can use this legislation to do so.
Bob Seeley.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the honourable member for Nottingham North, who spoke so eloquently. I welcome this bill, but like so many other people who've talked about it this evening, frankly, I think we should be doing more, and it is not in our interest to have lax standards, and it is in our interest to have the highest standards, and I know that is what the Foreign Secretary and others are trying to achieve. This bill, though, is not just about finance, but it is about power. The finance system, our finance system, the Western finance system, is a source of power. Russian and Chinese oligarchs, and especially the Russians, use our finance system. That gives us influence over them. So this is not just about terrorists, it's not just about dodgy individuals, and it's not just about drug dealers, but this is about changing and influencing state behaviour, and I very much hope that the ministers will see it in this guise. In this new forms of conflict and the world that we inhabit, financial power is a hard bit of soft power. The power to make rich people poor by freezing their assets is not something that we should underestimate, because it is a significant source of our influence. Generally, other people like the Honourable Member for Sutton Coldfield have spoken eloquently about Magnitsky and the lack of Magnitsky elements here, which concerns me. We don't have visa bans in the Finance Bill amendments, and there is no presumption of action. Just remind ourselves about Magnitsky. He was a Russian lawyer, worked for Bill Broder. He was tortured for several months, he was murdered, and his dead body was put on trial. That is remarkable even by Russian standards. It would be nice if the government had more ambition when it came to Magnitsky elements of the things that it is doing either on the Finance Bill or this bill. Overall, the idea that weak or lax standards help the UK to compete in the international money markets and in the international economies, I believe is deeply misguided. And I think we are in danger of wagging our fingers at people like the Russians whilst allowing their state officials and people close to their regime and close to those sanctions lists a free light to live and to use the Western system here. And on that point, EN Plus was floated recently in the city. It is reported that the US security officials are concerned about this and raised issues about the float, which may have been used to pay off loans to VTB, a Russian state-owned bank which is subject to sanctions. And if that is the case, I would love ministers to explain to me, whilst it is a wise move, effectively to turn a blind eye while the Russians play the sanctions process which we have put on them. Moving on briefly to the offshore problem. I congratulate Private Eye on the work they've done in recent years, highlighting the effects and the extent of offshore vehicles in the UK. And when, even on a place like the Isle of Wight, you have property owned by companies based in the British Virgin Islands, in the Cayman Islands, in Jersey, in Guernsey, in Luxembourg, in Gibraltar, this system is flawed. Lax standards are corrupting for our country and our financial system. And it is short-sighted to see it otherwise, and I'm sure the ministers would agree with that. But when houses in Belgravia and Hampstead are used as glorified Rolexes for the international kleptocracy community, we are getting something wrong. So I'm very much hoping that the Minister will pledge to continue to make the aspects of this law, of this bill, tighter. I'm very much hoping that he will to consider what can be done about the Magnitsky elements which are missing. And I very much hope that he will make a contribution, or he will make a commitment to having the highest standards in this bill and not following others. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Deputy Speaker.